This is a really tough time, and I actually had a coaching call with Haley yesterday that allowed me to move into a braver space around what folks are navigating. Because originally I was like, "Oh, this is bad fires," you know. But I am a recent like survivor of a fire. My childhood and adult home that I grew up in my entire life, my family lived on the same block for 65 years, caught fire in 2021. And we didn't end up like, the house no longer was no longer our house. There was like a whole bunch of push out that happened immediately after the fire. I was actually in the fire, and so I was hospitalized after the fire. And it was such a scary experience that I didn't realize what I experienced till 2 years later. Like I was literally watching an episode of like FDNY, and like someone was like passed away from smoke inhalation, and I was like, wait, I could have died. Like I didn't, it didn't occur to me because I was very focused on getting at that time, my 80-year-old mother out the house, making sure that people were safe. I told Haley, I ran out the house I had a coat on and I had shoes, but I had no pants. I had on some booty shorts because I was watching Sister Sister. And I lost everything. Like I lost everything. And the last 3 years of my life have been me rebuilding like my life from scratch. And so like we hit winter season. I'm like, even now, I'm like, wow, it'd be nice to get a new coat. So every year I give myself a new coat because I had started with 0 coats. And it'd be nice to give myself new boots because I started with 0 boots. And having to rebuild your life from, I mean, people can talk about minimalism and maximalism, whatever, but like when you literally have to start from like just point, like rebuild my library and my shelves and, all those things. And I'm grateful to say that I'm in my own apartment now. I have my own. I rebuilt my life, and I did it. But it took 3 years, lots of therapy, medication management, all of it. And for me, it was the first time I've experienced a lot of grief in my life. But something about being uprooted from where I knew and loved and called home was perhaps the largest amount of grief I've ever experienced. And I think that that is particular for Black people that are making a home in a place, or if your grandma made a home in a place, or your family found a home in a place, or you found your first home. Like this was the first place that you decided to go to where you didn't have roommates or, screaming cousins or something like that. That particular type of uprootment and displacement has a deep physical and psychological impact on us. And for me, it's something that I write about now. And like, this week I decided I'll talk about it because it really shaped sort of my understanding of not only where I was from, but like what happens when um, what Mindy Fully Love calls root shock. And she's usually talking about like gentrification or how people are uprooted from a place, but things like fires and waters and floods, if we think back to Katrina, often uproot, right, and move people, and sometimes they never get to go back to those places. And so it's a deeply particular type of experience. Yes, Ivory, root shock. It's like shock, a very deeply particular experience that is sometimes also is felt epigenetic. Like this is also not something I think for me, the first when I experienced it, it was like someone else in my bloodline had also experienced the same thing. I think that what was hard for me to get through even in talk therapy, I was like, well, this isn't the first time this has happened. Like where else have I been plucked from? And so on a cellular level, yes, on a molecular level, it was a type of experiencing that um, I had never experienced, and I think it was really hard to explain to communities around me that it wasn't just like this loss of a house or this loss of my 500 pairs of sneakers, which I really cried over, or my 2,000 books. It was really a loss of my understanding of place, the way I had etched my name in the sidewalk from when I was 7 or 11, or when you're a kid and you mark like how tall you're growing, like that was on the kitchen entrance for me, and that no longer stands. And so I am deeply I'm in deep prayer, and also like figuring out my own way of like how to support and hold folks through this, having really identify in this space as a survivor of that, and as a Black person who survived that. when we live in a world that is consistently working on our displacement and removal. And so I want to share that when I started doing this, well, two things. When I went through this, one of the things that while my fire was caused by like something in I don't know, we actually don't even know how it was happening. But in 2020, I started doing a lot of research on the fires that were happening in the Bay Area and how those were being caused. And there's something unnatural about this natural disaster. And there's a need to really acknowledge Indigenous and First Nation people who, for a very long time, set prescribed fires to maintain the natural need for forests to burn. Like they actually need to do that. And those were made illegal in many counties and like basically made illegal across the United States. And so because we don't have prescribed fires, we get things like natural fires and disasters, which are actually not natural because there has been such and this kind of policing and basically making it illegal has been enforced on the people who literally stewarded a land so that it could continue to survive. And so the fire keepers and the knowledge holders of fire keepers were removed from their duties that literally let our earth breathe in the way that it needed to. And so I just want to acknowledge all of the fire keepers and Indigenous folks who for years practiced ways to keep us safe. There's like a quote, and I don't know, there's a quote, it's like from a storyteller, and I think it's like, we loved fire, we never feared it, we respected fire, we need fire. And I used to say that so that I could build my relationship with fire after having experienced the fire, knowing that it wasn't always to be feared. And so like moving through like how there are entire groups of people who practice with fire, and I'm not talking about those like pyromaniacs, but people that practice with fire to establish how we live in harmony with the earth, is that fire is not to be feared, but also is to be, there's real practices that should, be contained, and those are no longer allowed. And so it is, yes, even farming practices is necessary to replenish the soul, right? And so as an activist, I think I'm always talking about burning things down, and I no longer talk about burning things down. I think about like what we say when we say that, and how many things, whether we're thinking about the Tulsa or like how many things for Black people in particular have been burnt down and never rebuilt. And so, yeah, it's a moment to think about that, to think about the Indigenous people whose work was to prevent what is currently happening, and how the removal of Indigenous people and the banishing of their practices and other, like even Black folks' practices around stewarding the earth is leading to the current sort of situation that we're in. The second thing I want to say is the one piece of um, advice or thing that I got when I was going through this is I started practicing breath work, which was necessary for me as a person who literally inhaled really dangerous chemicals during the fire, and came up with a whole bunch of respiratory problems. And so folks that are in LA right now, I know that the air quality is trash, and your respiratory systems are not in the best places. In addition to it being, wintertime and pneumonia, bronchitis, COVID, bird flu, all of these things that impact our respiratory system and our ability to really breathe. The thing about, I have asthma, and the interesting thing about asthma is not your ability to inhale, it messes up your ability to exhale. Like literally waiting to exhale is that's asthma's brand. We won't let you breathe out. And so it became really important for me to practice breath as a way to not only heal physically from what had happened, but also like emotionally, mentally, full body. Yes, we love some mullein leaf tea. That's really great for the lungs. Um, to heal from this. And so I want to share a little bit of a breath practice with you all. And the mantra that I was told when I was going through this. So my friend Jasmine Bowie is a breathwork practitioner, and I had like read all the books, did all the things. I was in therapy twice a week. And she offered this sentence that was, we are regenerative. We are regenerative. We are, yay. Yes, AJ, love Jasmine. We are regenerative, which means we can regenerate. And the things that we lose, the things that are no longer with us, like we are people that we're like starfish. We can grow back another arm, right? We can actually do it. We have to believe that what we lose can be regenerated, right? And also, and actually come back better and come back bigger and come back brighter. And I would say that to myself when I would be in a spiral, like I lost everything and nothing, and and I would spiral all the way back up with I am regenerative, I am regenerative, we are regenerative, we are regenerative. And it was really fundamental to my healing. So we're gonna do a breath practice. We're gonna do a 3-part breath. And I will show you it, and then I will talk us through it. And we're going to do this for about 5 minutes because we're already, in a time. And you can say whatever mantra in your head like works for you. I'm going to be thinking about being regenerative. And we'll do a 3-part breath. And so what I will say is we're going to breathe deeply. If you are not hydrated and you feel like tingling in your fingers or tingling in your toes or cramped up, it's because you're taking in a lot of air. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to breathe like we're breathing through a straw. So if you through a straw, everybody, and we're going to do a 3-part breath, which means we're going to breathe into our belly, into our chest. We're going to hold, and then we're going to release. So I will say into the belly, and you will slurp it up like a straw. So into the belly, and then into the chest, hold, release. Okay, so we're going to do that a couple of times. Does anyone have any questions about our 3-part breath? Okay, let me share some sound. We're getting relaxed, and close your eyes, lower your gaze, whatever feels comfortable for you. And set your intention or the mantra you need to tell yourself right now to get us through this moment. And when you're ready, we're just going to take a regular breath through our nose and release it through our mouth. Let's do that again. Just regular cleansing breath through our nose and release through our mouth. All right. And now we're going to move into our 3-part breath. So remember, first into the belly, and then into the chest, and then hold and release. Are we ready? Right. Like a straw, in through the belly, in through the chest, hold and release. Again, in through the belly, in through the chest, hold, release. One more time, in through the belly, into the chest, hold, and release. One more, in through the belly. And this time I want you to suck as far as you can into the belly. Feel the belly button press against your back. All the way in, into the chest. Hold. And when you release, I want you to release audibly and like, ah, okay, and release, ah. Okay, one more time. We're gonna do an even bigger release. Into the belly. Into the chest. Hold. Think about all that you've been holding until today and get ready to release. And release. Ah, ah. All right, we're going to take our last breath. With this breath, I want you to remember your own breath. And remember that breath is the thing, the one friend, the one person we are born with, the first person to greet us, and is the last person to say goodbye to us. And so it is precious. And it is, all of us on this call, we all have it at this moment. And so finally, into the belly, into the chest, release. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for breathing with me and letting me do some somatic shit. This was perfectly perfect, and I hope that it was nourishing for y'all.